Amazing. Thank you for asking me. I love talking about my work and I talking about the philosophy of my work. So I always say yes when people ask me to do artist presentations and so on and talks. Because it is so much more than just the form. It actually is about um what how I want people to feel when they're standing in front of my work. So how I started with basketry, really, I started 15 years ago and I had a very stressful business and with lots of demands, staff, lots of clients. It was very stressful. And it was probably a stressful period personally as well. And I have always loved craft. My where I when I grew up, I had craft all around me, just because my parents loved collecting textiles, and there was a Papua New Guinea basket that was gifted to my father that was sort of pride of place in the hallway that I walked past, and I think I just started. Nobody else in my family has this relationship to craft and art, but it was just something that just really uh, that struck me, I guess. And also too, in terms of my childhood, we grew up in the country in a small town, and my parents worked in the education system. And in Australia, we have 6 weeks over Christmas, and we have so like 4 weeks during the year off. And so we would be in a tent in a national park cooking. My mother would cook over the open fire with dampers, and we would be bushwalking every day, and my sister and I would share a tent, and that's like a third of my life was like that by the time I left home. And that really impacted how I see the world, in the sense of how our relationship with nature is so critical to who we are as people, and how we can impact the world around us. And also for me too, I it's how we act for me, it's how I access joy. I spent the morning sitting like a meter from the ocean swimming, because I just live just up the street from the ocean, and under a tree. That is just a joyful to hear that, and that's how I want my work to feel for people. So all of that kind of combined to um 15 years ago, when I was really actually made a decision that I wanted to find something that was a hobby that would make me not continue working when I got home from work. Um, and um, and I wanted to find something that was I love photography, and I did went and did a join a few photography groups, and I realized all that was going to do was make me sit in front of the computer for another, and I so then I kind of do love, I like lots of little mosaicing courses and pottery courses and stuff. But I found a basketry course that was over a Christmas period where I could actually get away from the business. And it was 5 days. And I just was like, within the first day, I realized this was what I wanted to do. I just loved it. I loved I loved how, and you would know this with what you do, is that as adults, we get disconnected from the tactile artistic experience. Like as children, we tend, from my life, what I was doing was tapping on the keyboards. That was the only connection between my hands and my head. Whereas what we do is, I think, connecting our hands with our heart, with our head, and that creativity. Just changes your brain. It just is a very different way of accessing creativity and imagination. And for me, innovation, because that when I started doing that, it really did help in problem solving actually in my business, and accessing and thinking of new ways of new products, new services. I actually ended up writing a book and launching an online business, which I actually don't think that I would have done had I not started doing this, because it really allowed me to start thinking really, not laterally, but really in different ways. And that's when I teach. That is why one of the reasons why I teach, because I think that we have lost that ability to be able to create in that way. And I think, and also to, it's being able to provide a way or a place for people to connect to nature in a creative way, which is like the foundation of actually why I do my teaching, because I want to create a space for women to come and gift themselves time. It's predominantly women. I get a man every now and then. It's predominantly women. It's predominantly women our age and knowing that there's something that's lacking that they're wanting to access. And so for my work, right from very, very the beginning, I wanted my parameters of my artistic practice. It was a hobby to start off with, but very quickly, like most things that I do, turned into a lot more than that. The parameters was not buying things for my art, was actually using found and foraged material, because we are surrounded by beauty. We are so no, I mean, I live in an urban space. I do have access to nature where I live, but we live in an urban space, and we are still surrounded by beauty. The sunset, a leaf falling off a tree, like just these moments where nature presents herself, but people are not really noticing it much anymore. I don't know how many people you've nearly run into in the pavement where they're walking straight in front of you because they're on their phone. And so for me too, it was like, look up, look around, and that's what my practice very much is about. And so the thing that I found living where I live was this plant called Bangalow palm, and the inflorescence at the top of the Bangalow palm, which is like the flower plant, which kind of looks like a bunch of seed pods. So you've seen it. I can show you some of my sculptures on that. And so that's what I could find here, because I can't find like bulrushes, or we call it kumbungi in Australia. There's another thing, I can't find vines. I can just find garden waste, things that people just throw out. And those big pods, people there, I live where there's lots of established gardens, and they can't fit them in the green waste bin. And so on my daily walks, I'd find them. So I'd drag them home, and I would start and weaving with them. And I wasn't taught it. I was actually a lot of my practice is self-taught, or I just learned the foundations, and then it's my interpretation of that traditional foundational basketry technique. For me, it was very much about not this perfection. A lot of baskets you'll see are so stunningly perfect, but I never wanted to do that. I wanted to explore this idea of exploration and play, and half of the stuff ended up in the green waste bin that nobody needed to see. So it was, and my practice is still very much like that. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's just kind of seeing what happens. So I'm happy to show you some of my work, and I can talk you through some, or do you have any questions now?
Guys, don't be shy. If you have questions, you can unmute yourselves and talk. But for me, it's more the comment. Um, I was just every word you were saying, I was pretty much like, yep, me too. Like 15 years, yes, 15 years, stressful work, yes, very demanding, yes. And then, like I'd love to, just probably have a conversation with you afterwards and how you developed your business and which direction you went. Because for me, it's also teaching was not an obvious choice. I was not looking to being a teacher, but this lack of contact with nature and bringing it back to people, that's kind of the main theme of Ikebana as well.
Yeah,
It's not all foraged. Yes, we do buy flowers, but if it's season and people can access, that's still a preferred option because it's more interesting. And then it teaches you to see, on your walk, you see nature differently. Like about lesson 6 in my practice, people come and say, I cannot go on a walk like I used to
yeah.
because
Oh, yeah.
oh, this branch,
Yeah.
I have seen this is a horizontal branch and
Hmm.
that is a vertical branch. And then they see that
Uh-huh.
branches are actually different and they have different purposes. And this is fascinating to see how a grown-up person who walked the same walk with their
Yeah.
dog every morning now suddenly see it differently. And that is basically the core of the experience for us as well. So very much interested. So looking forward for the continuation of your story. So very much resonates. Thank you so much.
It's really interesting that I did a piece that was in an award actually called Wilderness in Mutiny because there's this walk that I do every day and we have lots of sandstone in Sydney and that we have lots of like walls made from sandstone and I noticed one day that standing in front of this wall that I walked past probably 1,000 times, that there was all these what we would probably call um weeds and teeny tiny plants going through all of the sandstone. And it was like this wilderness. It was like this mini forest. It was so incredible. And that we had actually probably we would call them, well, we probably wouldn't, but others, gardeners maybe, um, call them weeds. And her next door neighbor probably would come and complain. It was like, why can't you pull all those out? But it was just this absolutely beautiful um declaration from nature saying it, we can grow anywhere and to be noticed. And I actually did a sculpture that represented this idea that in the green spaces, in urban spaces, the forests aren't these big tall trees. They're actually all these amazing weeds. Um, and I noticed actually when I had a residency in France, I was there for 3 months a couple of years ago, and I noticed because it's so different to Australia. They have the like cobble streets or the whatever, the um so it's not like tar streets. It's whatever is on the ground, and then they're
Cobblestone.
really small laneways. Sorry?
Cobblestone.
Yeah, cobblestone. And I noticed there weeds that were growing out that were on the sides of the houses. People actually tied them up and put little stalks on them to actually help them grow. And they actually saw this like I saw that everywhere. And I thought, how beautiful is that? And also probably how sad is that because they don't have spaces for gardens, but they have these weeds. But it was like this idea of actually really noticing and celebrating nature no matter where it grows. And I love exploring all of those concepts and those ideas as well. So I'll just share I thought I might just show you I'll go through a few of my works that are on my website. Can you see that now? No.
Yes, we can see it.
Can you see?
So we saw the introduction page, and now we see your profile with baskets, School of Basketry Art with
So it's the
Catriona.
wrong, yeah, this one. So can you see, I'm scrolling now.
No,
You
No,
can't see that?
it's showing School of Basketry.
Oh, let me just see if I can share. Stop. Stop.
Yeah, sometimes it's easier to stop and start again. Zoom is a bit
Yeah. Okay. Oh, yes. Now it's showing me what I'm sharing. Yep, you can
Yeah,
see that. You can see me.
that's right.
Yes, correct.
Yep, great. Okay. So I just thought I would just go through some of my sculptures to actually show you to talk through some of my processes, if that sounds good to you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so these totems for the trees, I'm just clicked on that. My website's very slow. So I made this. Can you, yeah, you can see that. So that tall uprights, so that is a basketry technique, well, sort of interpretation, called twining, where you've got uprights and you have got horizontals and you weave around the horizontals with the uprights. Um, and so all of this is foraged. The willow here you can't really grow, you're not allowed to grow willow in Australia, but you can buy them in homeware stores and stuff, and people throw them out on the street to throw away. So I pick them up. And so I have so this orange is philodendron sheaths, which I collect down on this path down here near me. And this is that with the orange is, I wish I could zoom this in a bit. But,
You cannot zoom in on your website. Like if you click on
oh,
the image, it
maybe if
does
I
not
click on it.
enlarge.
Ah,
Yeah, I
that's
think so.
better. Thank
Mm-hmm.
you. So that's Justina Draco. And that orange stays, so these colors stay the same. They don't change. And this is probably this is about 2 meters tall.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the Bangalow palm inflorescence that I mentioned before. And so I kind of I just did a commission for these for a house not too far from me actually, for their foyer. And I collected everything in 1 kilometer from that house for that. I actually did 3 pieces for them. So I walked like and I found things. So I'm the same. Don't go walking with me because I'm like clocking where I can like collect things the whole time.
Relatable.
So that's kind of like some of the and so I do a lot of this work where I use. So I foraged vines in different places. I predominantly use what's called 5-leaf water vine. And so that it's in Australia. I mainly use Australian natives, but that is, so it's Australian native, but it actually takes over canopies. So land care cuts it. And so then I collect it. And it's a really hard work. I like the last time, because I collect enough. I collect um, you know, enough because I actually then freeze it in an industrial freezer to make sure that there's no bugs or anything in it. So I try and collect as much as I can to do that because that's expensive. So yeah, it's one of those things that I wish that I had an intern that I could. Can you go collect me some vines? Or some days I think I wish I could just go to a store and buy 20 meters of 5-leaf water vine, please. Because and especially here in Australia, we're just coming up to snake season. And I spent a lot of time in the bush and a lot of time, yeah. So, it's an interesting, and I have, cuts and scars all over me, but that's what happens when you do when you forage. Um, so and I have a process where I do layers of charcoal. So I make all of my own pigments. I don't buy paint, and I don't use anything that's not natural. So I create my own pigment, and I've figured out a way to do that. And this is copper, like thin copper wire, and it is an interpretation. So this is just my interpretation of the traditional basketry technique called looping. And it's very unique to my work. There's nobody that really does work like this. People copy it, unfortunately, but this is work that I've developed over the last decade, and this is sort of my signature work. And this is at the bottom of this is looping, and on top of it, I have actually this is salvaged industrial copper wire that is like power lines pulled out of big industrial air conditioning units. And so I get it from the metal recycling center, and they're in big sort of dumpsters, and I've got to dive into the dumpsters and pull out these wires, and if the men there are having good days, I want to stop what they're doing and help me. They sometimes help me, because sometimes I go there and the dumpster's full, and when it gets full, they start cutting the wire up into small pieces, which I can't use. I need really long lengths. And so then I have to take everything out of the dumpster to get stuff at all of the long pieces of wire at the bottom of it. So yeah, it's very physical what I do, and it's so long too. I mean, I probably would have collected this maybe 2 years ago. So it's a long process, and very, very technically difficult. And so that middle piece section, so this is a commission for a hotel here in Sydney. It's beautiful, like 6-star hotel. And so the bottom represents the Sydney Harbour, the middle represents the hotel, and the top represents their patrons, coming and then leaving. And so that middle part of it, it's actually wrapped. It's copper so all of this copper in big sections, like big thick pieces of copper, which hundreds and hundreds of wires are in that section. I don't know if you've seen big industrial. So I actually have to unwind that and then unwind individual pieces. So it can take me a week before I can even start using it. And then the individual pieces I've actually wrapped, are kind of twined in there. And then the top part is this is like twined around a vine. So they're all individual pieces that I've actually twined together and then twined them and then I've attached them to the vine.
What is the size of this work?
So that's about 2 meters.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. So it's very physical work, but it's also very, like when I'm doing my looping, it is very quiet. I tend not to even listen to anything. Because it's really building the relationship with the material, with the work. I have no idea what I'm going to do. I just start. And so as I am doing it, like for them, for example, the general manager wanted me to draw what I was going to do before he signed off. And I said, no, it's not how I work. You just get what you get. Like here's my other work that I've done. And this is generally what it's going to be, a vine, and it's going to have copper on it. But that's as much as I can tell you, because it's because I'm building around, because my work, how I work is intuitive. So, and I love, and like a lot of my students really struggle with this, but I love the idea. I love stepping um, into this place of the unknown, of just trusting my skill and trusting like my visual language and seeing the outcome. Yeah. This is another similar one that is just in an award at the moment, actually. And this actually is about mangroves, where my parents live, and I ride my bike. I love riding, and I ride around the mangroves. And yeah, this is actually about how delicate the mangrove ecosystem is and how important it is for water filtration and how damaged they are getting. Particularly in coastal areas, there's a lot of coastal erosion and a lot of I mean, everybody wants to live on the east coast of Australia, and unfortunately, that's where along the coast, it's where things get so many ecosystems are being damaged as a result of that. Yeah, so this is sort of the mangroves, and so we have there's boardwalks. There's often boardwalks around mangroves because they're tidal. And so yeah, so this is a boardwalk, represents a boardwalk around the mangroves, and this idea that we sort of see it from a distance, but we need to build a closer relationship to understand how critical they are for us.
And
If
did
you've
you
got any
know
questions.
place? Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Somebody was trying to say something. No? Okay. I had a question, like when you are working for this commission for the hotel, for example, do you know the place where it's going to be hanging, or it's not important for you?
No. When I'm doing commissions, I've just finished 2 for a house. Oh my gosh, this stunning house here. When I drop off my sculptures, I often go, you're about to live your best life, because uh like they're like $20 million houses. That's kind of where my work tends to go, and commission work, and like kind of from where I live up the northern beaches. It's beautiful properties that look over oceans, and yeah, I drop them off, and they're just like, I'll just go back to my teeny tiny apartment. You just live in this beautiful place. But the commissions, I need to, and even when people are coming over, I just had someone come over because she wanted a piece for her place, and I say, actually bring a photo. So then so then I can actually say, this is where I think it would work or it wouldn't work. And for commissions, I definitely need to know where I have a general idea of where it's going to go. And also too, like I'll ask questions about how much copper you like, how much, because as you can see, like the beauty of a leaf, for example, that was a commission, and that was a small, so it's this one.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was going at the top of a stair case, and they didn't want it sticking out at all because they didn't want it to be notched. And
Mm-hmm.
so and they wanted minimal. They didn't want copper. They didn't want anything else. They just wanted the vine to speak for itself. So yeah, I do but it's not like doing a painting where they've got a rectangle or a square, and they've got yellow cushions they want the painting to match, which happens a lot. And so this one is called Silent Voices. And so this actually won an award in Australia, and it's just been in a juried exhibition in the US. And it's actually on its way home to me. And so this is a power line. And the wire is just a little bit thicker than a strand of my hair. And I had to, it was, I don't know whether I'll ever do something like this again, to tell you the truth, because it was very, very difficult. Just pulling the strands out of that power line was so hard because it was so thin and really kinked. But it's called Silent Voices. And it's about, so they're bell jars, and they're about, so it's actually, it's not about climate, it's actually, but it is about social justice. So if you put a bell jar over sound, the sound instantly vanishes. And so it's actually about how in Australia we have a domestic violence crisis and violence against women crisis. And so it's about how the media, police, legislation, politicians just put bell jars over women's voices when we are asking for more funding and more assistance when it comes to that social issue. So, and these copper baskets, these were just fun to make. And this is like just something, I actually was really sick at the beginning of the year and couldn't go into the studio. But I was just sitting at home and I just had some copper here at home, some wire, and so I actually just sat on the floor and pulled out vases from the cupboard and just started random weaving around the vases. And then, as I said, don't ever go for a walk with me because I have amazing branches, collect like boxes. I can't park my car in my garage because I have so much work, and I have my work in my garage, but I also have a collection of things. So this actually is something that you could potentially use from an Ikebana perspective.
Oh, yeah. These are brilliant.
And so this is my design and my version. So this was actually in an art prize and it sold. So, and she was actually, the lady who bought it has this whole, she actually built shelves to put each one on, which is really lovely. They've got a really lovely personality. And so that's sort of about my work too, is that I had no idea I was going to make these and how glorious they turned out. And it just so happened that I was sick and I felt like I was well enough to do a little bit of weaving, but not go to the studio, and it turned into this. So four of them. So seaweed. So I go down to the beach when we have storms and go and collect seaweed. And while everybody else is like, why is that crazy lady in the middle of a storm collecting seaweed? Because you can do amazing, you never know when you need the seaweed. And so I have boxes of this seaweed. And then I went, oh, hang on, I've got that seaweed. I wonder whether I could use those as handles. And yes, they look divine as handles. And yeah, and one of that small one is driftwood. And that other one, I have no idea where I collected that twisty one. Yeah. And some of those is copper that I actually, so I put copper shim and I put it into a flame, not a flame, like an open fire, and to get some really interesting colors and just kind of to see what happens. And that happens beautiful. And yeah, and so the one on the right is I actually got some copper ribbons and I couldn't do what I wanted to do with them. And so I had that around and I thought, oh, I wonder what wonderful collection. So I actually teach that in my online school. This not with this type of random weave. So the basketry techniques that I do is this type of random weave. I'll just see if I can find the other one. So this random weave is one of my favorite. Actually really love doing that, this really precise twining. It's very difficult, but I love doing it. And I love doing the looping because there's a beautiful rhythm. I can do a beautiful rhythm to it, but there's also this random weave. I'll open a few of those. So this is that Bangalow palm inflorescence. And so I have had several, I like there isn't a workshop that there isn't a florist that comes that wants to learn how to do this, or somebody who works with flowers. So this is, so that would be 1.5, 1.8 meters. And so that is, yeah, so that's random woven in the center there. And then it's free form on the outside. And this other one, so I absolutely love doing cocoons. I'll show you a couple of those. I find cocoons are very nurturing, transformative shape. And so I do cocoons in various, so I don't know whether you've ever, well, I weave with a vine, which I actually collect around the toilet box near my studio, called Muhlenbeckia, which is this beautiful, beautiful material to weave with. And I also weave with the Australian native called Smilax, which is a vine as well. It has thorns though. So this is actually, this would be close to 2 meters. And so this is this cocoon. And this is the random weaving that I started with, and that's what I predominantly teach, but a much smaller, easier version of this. And this I actually have to get done in a day. Well, I choose to get done in a day because with basketry and maybe with the work that with the material that you do, you have to hydrate it to be able to weave with it. And so for this material, for me, once it's hydrated, I collect it dry. And then once it's dried, I hydrate it to make it flexible to be able to weave with it. And I personally do not like drying and rewetting because I think it impacts the fiber negatively. So I just make sure that I have a whole day I can get this done in a day. But I have woven this material for 15 years now. So it's one of my most favorite materials. I'll just see if I can find the others. Let me know if you've got any questions or so
how do you then preserve it, sorry, in the long run? Something like the cocoon
yeah, so not all of this material is for indoor use. So if you put it outside, or any organic material, it's going to disintegrate. But inside, it'll be fine. I have the first basket sitting here still. I can see it that I made 15 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, so as long as it's not outside in the sun and the rain, it's fine. So they're jellies and they are about 1.5 meters. I'll just open them. So this is twining and it's using recycled paper. And it is, so this is a technique called twining. which may be something that you could potentially use as well. But that's recycled paper. And I literally had that material for probably 10 years before I picked it up, because I got it from a store that was closing down. I had no idea what it is. It's thick. It's like about as thick as a centimeter, like probably a centimeter thick. So it's quite thick to use. And I thought, oh, I wonder what that one day, what would happen if I picked that up? And I was trying to make a basket, but they turned into jellies. So this is Smilax, but I'm going to show you a better version of this in terms of like forms that you can use. So this is Muhlenbeckia. So I did a steel welding course, which I so love. So I made this. So that's really high, really big. But it's so hard to do any more steel making because you need the facilities. So yeah, so this is Muhlenbeckia. That is like massive. It's like, yeah, it's huge. So can you see that there's tiny little flower leaves on it, green leaves. And so that brown color, it stays that color. So that's not Australian native, but that actually grows around the toilet blocks at my studio. So it's amazing where you actually find material. And there's, oh yeah, so this is, I'll just show you this. And then we can do some questions. So this is that wilderness in flourishing mutiny. This is that idea of the little plants that were in that sandstone wall that I actually mentioned before. So this is the idea that you know, the wilderness, and this is a vine called Smilax, which is Australian native vine, and it has thorns in it. So it's very difficult, but I'd love, and it's very hard for me to find. But when I find it, it is a joyful day. And this is, so these are about 2 meters as well. And so this is recycled wire. And I annealed it. It's thick wire. And so I threw that in a fire to anneal it, to soften it. And so this idea of the wilderness is actually growing into this, into a human-made form as well. So yeah, there's so many different, and yeah, so somebody just gave me these dyed pine needles. And so I love nests. I absolutely love the nest form, this idea of where growth happens and transformation happens. So I often make nests just sort of, so these are just leftover materials using random weaving and whatever materials that was in the box that somebody gave me. My purpose for this is for people to understand that craft and that what we do is so central to humanity, and that when you stand in front of like the most beautiful Ikebana or one of my pieces, some people look at it and go, yeah, but it's just like a vine stuck on a wall, like, and you painted it black. Do you know, like, so, but other people, and I have been in exhibitions where I have watched people, they stand in front of it and it moves them, like it changes them. And I sit there, I've got goosebumps now, and I'm like, this is why I do it. because because what I do, it's energy. It's an energy transference too. It's organic material and it would have ended up in the green waste bin and rotten down, but it is this material that is in front of them, and it's like this reconnection with something that's within them and a connection to nature. And it is my purpose. It's why I'm doing it. And and it doesn't matter whether it is in this big solo exhibition, or it doesn't matter whether I'm never going to be in a huge gallery. It doesn't matter that, it actually just matters that one moment where that one person has that relationship with with the nature that's on the wall. Because when they have that relationship, then they will go out, and I'm hoping they will then see nature and in a different way, which then will make the world a better place in some way, and it will allow them to access joy in a specific way, or a way that works for them as well.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I think it's such a wonderful closure. If I wanted to, I couldn't have planned it better.